Hey, Sean here. I hope you're all having a great day. The Forgotten City released last week after being years in the making from a small developer called Modern Storyteller. The game originally started as a Skyrim mod, which I'd never played personally, but I know it was incredibly popular with around 3 million downloads. That was about as far as my knowledge went for this game. I purposely avoided any sort of information about it. After watching the trailer months ago, I was immediately intrigued as to what this game would be like. I immediately picked it up upon release. I started and I was immediately placed in a conversation. It was intriguing, but the animation seemed a bit stiff and clunky. I felt like I might end up getting disappointed by the end of the game, but I persevered and I'm glad that I was wrong. Before I carry on with this review, I will say I'll be trying to keep the story as vague as possible. Aside from how the story gets set up, I'll attempt to be vague when trying to explain what I enjoyed and disliked about the game. That said, there will be some light spoilers, so be warned, especially if you're planning on going in blind. So let's get on with it. The story begins as you're washed ashore on the banks of the River Tiber in Italy. You're unsure how this has happened, but a woman was luckily there to help you. The woman offers you some help back to the city, but is pretty concerned about someone else who was there earlier, who has now wandered off into ruins located in a forest. She asks you to find him and to bring him back in exchange for a boat ride home. It seems simple enough, so you accept the request, only to end up falling through a trapdoor. As you regain consciousness, you wander through the ruins of an ancient Roman city. Gold statues are littered about on your way. It's peculiar, as these statues are rather lifelike and stuck in odd poses. You wander through the city until you arrive at a portal. You step through and are transported back 2,000 years. The story hits the ground running. As soon as you're there, you're led to a magistrate, the city leader, who explains why you've been brought here. He believes that someone in the city is about to break the golden rule, which requires people to keep from sinning. If they do, the entire city will be turned into golden statues. Your task is to find out who exactly is about to break it. You begin to question its population about their histories and experiences in the city to gain insights into their motivation and characters. Your conversations reveal important things about the lives within the city, and now you can begin to help. A lot of these issues would eventually result in sins being committed. Throughout this investigation, you're made aware that the portal you arrive through can also loop you back to the start of your arrival, meaning you get to start the day over and over again. The population doesn't remember this, so there's no doubt it'll become a useful mechanic to you as you begin to unravel the secrets and solutions to the problems you encounter through the city. It's clear that there are certainly people here who are not as they appear to be, but who will break the golden rule. You begin to unravel the secrets hiding beneath the surface of the city and its people, who all share deep humanistic flaws which could lead to their demise, all while pondering the ideas posed throughout. What is considered morally right and wrong? The story takes some unexpected twists and turns as you tug through the threads of mystery in the Forgotten City. Will you be able to save the city and its population, or are its inhabitants doomed to repeat the failures of its previous occupiers? Okay, so I think that was as vague as possible while giving an idea of the overall story direction. There is a lot that happens through the story, as well as there being 4 different endings. While I only have obtained one of these, it was definitely the best ending by a while, so that is what I'll be reviewing today. The story is deep and rich, dripping with insights into the Roman Empire and its interaction with other cultures along the way. The world building in this game is something special, as the characters reveal important information and backstory that layer the story together piece by piece, and one that all comes together in a way that wraps up so well. My favourite aspects of the story were the interactions between myself and characters, which all felt different to each other, well written, and had me listening with anticipation to every line. There were characters that were obviously developed better than others, for example Galerius, who starts off as someone you think is just there to assist you at the start of a loop, but actually becomes pretty important to the plot. There were some very interesting moments with Galerius, who towards the end of the game sees himself thrust into the spotlight of the citizens. There were characters that I loathed, not because they were poorly written, but because they were despicable people. There are other characters that toe the line of loathsome, but develop further and evolve into somewhat likable characters. It's hard to cram character growth into a game which revolves around one day in the life of a city, but somehow it does happen, and by the end of the game you see the impact of your character on these people. In a narrative-driven game with heavy dialogue, characterization is probably one of the most important aspects to how the story moves forward, so it's nice to see it being done so well here. If it wasn't for its diverse, flawed characters, this narrative would fall apart, especially considering it's a mystery focused on the weakest link in a group of people. It's also a mystery where every link in the chain has potential flaws that could make it break at any time. Finding this one person is an impossible task. Its inhabitants are very human, and by the end it all makes sense as to what exactly has taken place. Interpretation of morals is a huge theme throughout this game, and will often have characters reflecting on what they consider as sin. Morals are often social constructs and would often vary from society to society. This game really dives into that and continuously challenges the player to consider what is right and wrong. There is one connection between each interpretation of morals, culture and religion, which all believe that you shouldn't do to others what you wouldn't like to be done to yourself. I really didn't expect religion to play so heavily into this game, but it did. Obviously, this is a game that is set 2,000 years in the past, so it all revolves around the Roman Empire, which is now under attack by a so-called cult, Christianity. It explores a lot of the gods of its time, while also delving into the cyclical nature of religion, which sees the characters explore how the Romans took ideals from the Greeks and how the Greeks took ideals from the Egyptians and so on. The introduction of Christianity here is no accident, as it is highlighting that cyclical nature. It was really interesting to see these characters confront these ideas and whether they can come to accept that their religion isn't necessarily the first of its kind, and how the religion shares a lot of the same beliefs and ideals as the others do. These cyclical themes and connections between cultures are very important by the end of the game. The ending of the game isn't something that I'll discuss here just yet, but I will say it came together in a very satisfying and unexpected way. It wrapped up most, if not all, of the threads it created throughout the game, while confirming a lot of the suspicions you might pick up along the way. The ending of the game managed to exceed my expectations, as I was partly expecting something that would perhaps be bittersweet. I'm glad this wasn't the case and was greeted at the end with a very surprising twist that I wasn't expecting from a mile off. It was a fantastic wrap up to a game. It answered a lot of the lingering questions I had while playing through that climax. It was very memorable and the best possible outcome to a situation like this. There was no hanging threads of a sequel, just a great story told from start to finish. In terms of gameplay, a lot of the game is through puzzle-based mechanics such as finding a solution to a specific problem. One of my favourite puzzles included me finding a solution to stop a political candidate from entering and winning an election. This had me attempting to manipulate characters into doing or giving me something, while using the time loop to obtain information from others to ensure the outcome. These puzzles were intricately designed and would often lead on to other puzzles as you progress through the game. The time loop mechanic will see the game reset at the first point of entry into the city. Any quest you have solved previously will then be completed by Galerius after a bit of dialogue. This leaves you to focus on newer problems presented. This was a great addition, as I was expecting to have to complete everything again after a reset. Aside from the puzzles, there is combat sprinkled very lightly throughout, in which you take control of a single weapon, a bow. These combat sections were pretty enjoyable, if only to break up any monotony you might feel during the heavy dialogue sections. The bow also came in use for certain platforming sections, which see you transform Ivy into walkable platforms to traverse levels. I found the combat in the Forgotten City to be simplistic and infrequent enough for people who aren't familiar with, or perhaps competent with combat in games, like people who are mainly wanting to focus on story. My main issue with the gameplay would be mainly aimed towards the pacing at certain points. There were certainly points where the dialogue felt like it was going on for a little longer than it needed to be, and would completely slow down the momentum you'd gain while doing certain quests. There's one bit of dialogue that felt overly long during the best ending. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it. Graphically, this game is gorgeous. The setting is an absolute treat to look at, with an intricately designed map that feels large yet easy to navigate. The buildings and their interiors look and feel authentic, only adding to the overall atmosphere. The city feels very much lived in and aged, as its history might suggest, and as you begin to explore, you see the extent of how old the city really is. Its location plays heavily into the game's themes of connection between religions as we begin to explore further beneath its surface. The character models look great, although can seem very wooden at times, which is one of my biggest complaints with it overall. In a game where you spend most of your time digging through dialogue to find clues, you often get distracted by some of the robotic expressions that the characters have. I feel it could have been a little more natural in terms of expression and movement, and it would have definitely aided the immersion further, as well as enhancing dialogue from certain characters. For such a dialogue-heavy game, it relies upon the acting to deliver every line convincingly. There was a massive range of different ethnicities in this game, all with their regional accents depending on where they came from. I never really questioned their authenticity because I always felt convinced. The game was spoken entirely in one language too, and there were actually reasons for it, explained at the beginning, which was a great touch. Often games can overlook this and be done in a way that's unconvincing. I remember playing Assassin's Creed Unity, constantly wondering where were the French accents, but here I always felt convinced by the delivery of dialogue. One criticism I did have towards the voice acting would have been Al's, who at the end had a bit of a buzz or a tinny sound around his recording. It stuck out a little bit. But one thing I did love was the whispers you'd hear around statues. They would come out of nowhere at times and you could miss them easily if you weren't paying attention. They were mixed very well with the soundtrack, which didn't overpower them and make them difficult to understand. The overall score did a great job at creating this sense of awe and wonder while exploring the city, and really enhanced the interactions with its characters. The score would often swell with these moments of exploration, and it felt very cinematic, like if I were watching a film. The score respected the dialogue and would recede when needed, while still being noticeable but enhancing it. The score was used well here to enhance player emotions. An example of this would be the particular moments where you had to rush back to the portal. It felt energetic and tense. I didn't need to be told that I needed to rush back. I could tell by the soundtrack alone that something bad was happening. It was a great contrast between the reflective moments of dialogue, which you'd no doubt experienced moments before. Overall, this game is something I didn't expect it to be. It's deeply reflective with its themes of morality and religion, and is entirely fulfilling with how it all ties together, what with the questions it poses through its 7-hour playtime. The Forgotten City is a gorgeous and entertaining dive into the well played out trope of time travel, one that keeps it fresh by keeping its players on its toes as to what is actually happening. The game issues are mainly around the awkwardness of the character animations, which at times did remove me from the story, as they can somewhat come across as emotionless. It's a stark contrast to their emotive voice acting. There were certainly issues with the dialogue's pacing at certain points, but it's certainly hard to hold it against it, especially when the story is told so masterfully. This game is certainly one that fans of the adventure genre will enjoy, and if you find the story to be important also, you'll fall in love with this game. For me, this game is easily an 8.5 out of 10. It's absolutely one that I'd love to go back to and experience again. I just wish this game was a little longer so I could stay in this interesting world some more. I only hope that the developers will continue to produce games of this quality, especially story-wise, and I hope that the success of this game helps them to do so. So yeah, everybody go out and play this game now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think you'll pick this game up? Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.